Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack, Chief Lead Generation Officer at salesbread.com.
Boom. Today, we got something
Boom.
cool for who? Prospecting? I mean, cold emailers, right? But
Yeah, anyone doing outbound sales that wants to do a really good job of combining the two channels that we all are familiar with,
love
cold
and hate.
email and then LinkedIn. That's right. So they they likely deserve a look at whatever your organization is selling if it's B2B, but it's not always clear how to use them together. Maybe you're worried if you're setting it up correctly or if you're reaching out in the wrong order, what comes first. And so today we're just going to spill out a relatively simple way to set those two channels up. Yeah.
How many years since we say the future is omni-channel?
Oh, that was 2020, like January
3 years.
2020, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think I would have also say like 3 years. So yeah, we've been saying it, guys, for a long time. I think it's about time that we do a proper cast on how to combine both of those channels, the
There
right
you
way.
go.
And you got shit ton of experience with that. So I probably will take like a sort of like backseat because for a while, every time I
Got
use
it.
LinkedIn, it works for me, but I just hate
Yeah.
using it. So I don't know. It's about time that we do something about it.
I agree. All right. And before we dive in, a quick word from our sponsors, because today most B2B companies lack the time or expertise to turn your cold prospects into warm sales qualified leads. So at salesbread.com, we're going to send you one lead every day, Monday through Friday, by sending ultra personalized cold emails on LinkedIn, multi-channel, on your behalf. So you don't have to worry about list building, personalization, sales copywriting, the right way to follow up, tracking all the responses to figure out which one you need to jump into and which one you can safely ignore, and everything in between. So if you need more leads and you'd rather not try and do it all yourself and you just want to spend more time closing, head over to salesbread.com, check out some of our articles, school yourself on some sales hacks, and maybe get in touch by hitting the contact button today.
Great. Absolutely recommend it. 100%. So the second sponsor, I think it's about, it's a small tool that's very, very good at doing cold outreach. Let me see my one-liner. So today as well, it's not yesterday, it's today, and maybe tomorrow even. It's really hard to scale an agency that manages cold outreach once you pass 10 client mark. It's really hard. I know it. Keeping track of all the inboxes, because obviously you need more than one inbox nowadays. It becomes mandatory, and their sending reputation becomes an absolute nightmare. You may be using auto warmer, but that's just not enough. There's some risk with auto warmer. We should do a cast about this. Anyway, meanwhile, you're worried about how to keep getting good results for your clients, and your team struggles to have visibility on which clients needs the most help and attention. Not to mention having to deal with unhelpful support. Most of them suck, to be honest. Every day asking yourself, what part of the tool is going to break again. That's why some of the biggest cold email agencies in the world choose QuickMail. It's no drama. It just works. And you can scale your business without worrying that things will break while you're away. So if your operation is looking for the most robust, flexible cold outreach tool to scale your business, head over to quickmail.io and start a trial, or better, ask for a demo. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, do it.
Great. Yeah, and there's some really good pricing options right now. Highly encouraged.
That's
Check that
true.
out.
I
Even
should say
if you're
it.
getting started.
You have also a free
By the way.
trial, so there's absolutely zero excuse. And in fact, you can take me up on this. Just say like, yeah, you watch the podcast, but if you're currently paying a sub inferior product, that is one of our direct competitors, like we're not talking about MailChimp, right? But if it is one of our direct competitors, send us the invoice. We just give you the credits back in QuickMail, and you'll be glad you switch.
Love it. All right, let's put 10 minutes on the clock,
Ooh,
Jeremy.
yes. We've been
Because
rambling for more than 10 minutes. We should do a 10 minutes on our introduction.
you're not wrong. All right, so we got 10 minutes. It's already started. Now, you want to, let's say, use multi-channel, and we'll keep it
Yeah.
simple.
How do I do that?
Cold email, LinkedIn. How do you do that? Let's do this cast as like the best practice for just getting started multi-channel, because
Cool.
you can you can imagine this will get complicated, but I'm going to try not to let it even approach complexity today.
All right,
let's see
I'm
how I
gonna
do.
throw some stuff at you, but we'll see.
All right, throw stuff. So we need a list first and foremost. And for the sake of this cast, let's pretend there's a 1,000 prospects that make sense to reach out to, right?
Okay. Do we actually need to figure out first, like, well, my first question actually is like email first, LinkedIn second, or like intertwined, or like LinkedIn only?
So no,
That's my
I love the
first
question. I love the question, and it's a wrong thing to ask. So you're asking
glad I did it.
Now think about it. It's like, how do I start this conversation?
Yes.
Don't think about it that way. Instead, flip it around and say, what channel is most appropriate for my prospect?
Sure.
Okay. So what that looks like, if you've got 1,000 prospects that you can sell to, that, let's say we've done our good job of list building, we're left with 1,000 great people to prospect. The first thing I would do right away, see who you can actually find a valid email address for. Right. Everyone that is risky, you can pretty much put them in the LinkedIn camp.
And I love your idea, which is effectively you don't have to do one or, you could do either and,
exactly
those two things.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And bear in mind is there's going to be some people that you cannot do multi-channel to. For example, if you can't find a valid email address, that's it, game over, go on LinkedIn. Now, you may be tempted to say, okay, well, I can get anyone's LinkedIn handle. I'll just start there. But that's also inappropriate. So here's how I view it, Jeremy. So I'm going to take the list, see who's valid. All right, cool. So I'll tag, all right, I know who's valid and risky. The next thing I'll do is I will, and this can take a team member some time to go through, but basically you need to figure out who actually likes LinkedIn. Some people hate it, and some people haven't checked their profile in 3 years. And those folks, you're never going to get engagement on LinkedIn at all. Don't even bother. You're going to waste your time. Not only that, you're going to waste your invite credits. You only get 125 to 45 if you're doing a pretty good job per week. So why would you waste an invite to someone who doesn't have a profile that's fully filled out? They have 110 connections. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point as well, is that, both channels have their strengths and weaknesses. Like, you're limited with LinkedIn, literally. With email, you can ramp it up by having like multiple email accounts.
Yes.
We got the same thing coming up for LinkedIn and QuickMail, but
yeah,
usually one account,
but you're still limited. You're still limited on email, where you can only send to a valid email address, and that may only be 65-70% of your list, right? So naturally, the list will put themselves in different buckets for you. So here's how I do it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
And like you mentioned as well, like, isn't 10 connections the risky equivalent of emails? You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
It's like, when you're validating an email, it could either be valid, bounce, or risky. Risky is like you take a risk, right? Isn't the LinkedIn, I got only 10 connections with this prospect, is it actually the risky equivalent of emails?
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
Very good. Very good. I mean, yeah, that's a great way to look at it. But for our purposes, we're, especially at SalesBread, we're low volume, high quality senders. So I don't care if that means saying goodbye to certain people on LinkedIn or email. So here's how I do it, Jeremy. So right off the bat, once I've found who's valid and who's not and tagged them appropriately, I'm also going to see who do I know is a real true blue LinkedIn user. And unlike cold email, and I wish there was a way to know who actually is out there replying to cold emails. That would be beautiful. That would be, Perry Marshall's racking the shotgun. Yeah, can you imagine? It'd be Mark Cuban and Derek Sivers on that list. Anyways, what you can do is just ask LinkedIn, okay, you can see people's connection counts. Okay, if they got 500, that's a good sign. If someone's in your second degree network, that's a good sign. And if somebody's got a lot of posts that are recent, now we're really cooking here.
Yeah.
And to top it off, if this individual has a fully, built out profile, lots of connections, recommendations, they have the LinkedIn app downloaded, or at the very least, it seems like it's a part of their work week. So I'm going to prioritize those prospects. And here's the fun part, Jeremy. Let's say you do this exercise and you say, gosh, out of 1,000 prospects, only 120 were what I consider like hardcore LinkedIn users. Well, if you check back in 2 weeks, maybe another 45 will have just recently posted that week.
Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So the fun thing is that list is evolving, even if your starting list is static. Okay.
I love it.
But that's where I start. So I say, cool, these 140 are clearly active on LinkedIn. I'm going to send these people connection requests. Now, those that are ready for this, not active,
listening,
and has a valid email address, enter cold email. Okay. So you've just heard me hopefully tell you how to split the starting point. Some people start with a LinkedIn connection request, and some people start with a cold email. The criteria, if they're active, I like people that are already in my second degree network and I see a lot of activity. So those folks get an invite first. If you're valid and you don't use LinkedIn, you get a cold email first. Okay. It just do that. That's the basic. And if you stop the podcast now, you kind of have the beginning point.
I got stuff to say too. Well, no, I'm kidding.
No, but that's all you need to know to start. Okay. But then the question is, well, how do you intertwine the channels? Right. Then enter the flow criterion. This is the person received a LinkedIn invite, but did not actually accept. Okay. Ready for this scenario?
Yeah.
Boom. No problem. If they didn't accept, you don't have to wait 30 days. Almost everyone will accept your message after about 10 days. So if after 10 days they don't accept and you've got a valid email, on goes cold email. But this nice group here is you're able to add personalization from the recent LinkedIn post. That's kind of a nice thing to be able to do with this group. And some people mention that they also send them a connection request, which I don't know if it's really worth it, but it's like, okay, if you want to be real lazy with personalization, technically you could just do that. I think a couple of years ago, that was enough to say, oh, this person can. Anyways, that's the flow for no response. If somebody finishes your cold email flow in that group and they don't really look like LinkedIn users, some people will add them to a LinkedIn step, and I don't recommend that. Like, I just know if somebody is not having a fully written out profile, that they're in a restaurant hospitality industry, don't even worry about LinkedIn. This is truly sort of letting the prospects' online activity dictate where you're reaching them. Sometimes, I mean, I know a lot of the crypto, like fintech companies, they love Twitter and they do a lot of, I don't know, posting and DMing on Twitter, and it works great for them. My point is, just because you're going multi-channel, it doesn't mean it's for everyone. LinkedIn, right? Does that make sense? So, Jeremy,
yeah, sure.
I didn't answer your questions. Yeah.
Well, the idea is really, to capture a bigger part, because if cold email was working, 100% with everyone, then there would not be any need for omnichannel. Right today, in this call is how do you actually merge the two, right? LinkedIn and email. So, if someone just accepts, do you actually bring them back to email and say, hey, look, I know, LinkedIn inbox is a mess. Maybe it's better that, or do you actually keep on the right channel for them? Like, if they reply to email, you keep email. If they reply to LinkedIn, you keep LinkedIn. Like, is there any
It's a great question. Yeah, there is. So we actually asked this question to Nathaniel Bibby when he was on our cast, I think in 2020. And he goes, look, you got engagement for them already on LinkedIn. They're there, stay there until they're proven otherwise. And that's the modification. His recommendation was just stay on LinkedIn because that's where they are. Now, for me, you only stay on LinkedIn until it doesn't work anymore. So feel free. You want to reach out a couple more times once you get that connection request accepted on LinkedIn. But hey, if that's not doing it, by all means, add cold email to wrap up that LinkedIn sequence, right? Just like we kind of considered when they finished the cold email flow, check them again. Like, maybe they recently did something on LinkedIn that tells you, all right, let's go ahead and add them now to a LinkedIn step. Try there, because cold email did not work for this prospect, right? But I'll share one finding, Jeremy, with you. And I've done enough of these tests to come to a pretty solid conclusion. If somebody accepts your connection on LinkedIn and does not reply to your follow-ups, and you follow up more than 2 times, so total of 3 touches after they accept, adding them to cold email, not an easy campaign. If I'm just sharing what we've learned at SalesBread, that campaign is always, it feels like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. So we have gotten a few leads from doing that effort, but it appears to me that most of those folks have seen your pitch and they didn't respond because the timing was wrong. So what we've started doing is put a huge delay in when you touch them on cold email. That's going to maybe allow you to say, all right, well, the buying cycle's closed. They don't have a pain point today, but in 3 months they're getting an email, and then it tends to work a bit better. Does that make sense? Like,
also when you're saying like follow up, like cold email, yeah, okay, by email. Do you have any, just to close down because we're out of time, do you have some metrics people can just judge how they're doing? Like what should they expect in terms of connection accept if it's well done, right? What because we know roughly like if you get more than 10% in cold outreach by email, then you're in an okay position in 2023.
Yeah.
Right. What is it for in your experience from LinkedIn?
Yeah. Okay. So what LinkedIn stats should you be looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is kind of the fun thing. So LinkedIn stats are better than cold email stats, at least today, right? If you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, the volume's lower, so do the math yourself. But what we're seeing, like on the low end for connection invite acceptance, like if you're reaching out to, I'm talking like chief compliance officers, CFOs, or investors like to talk.
That's so
like
true.
hard to reach. Okay, like maybe big e-commerce brand owners, that kind of thing. You need to be seeing, like at the worst case scenario, 22% invite acceptance, or else you're probably doing something wrong. Okay. On the high end, we're seeing 55% connection request acceptance if you're reaching out to a
and that means people
segment that likes it.
People second connection most likely, all just sort of like great.
Yeah,
stuff,
and
right?
you're cutting the list properly. That's exactly right. And so your job is to, again, don't waste those limited invites. Please only send to people that are likely to engage. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of response rate, we almost, without exception, Jeremy, 20% reply rates is what we're used to seeing. Sometimes it can get doubled if we're.
You mean on LinkedIn? 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Once
after
somebody
accepted,
accepts.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. That's right. So
that's basically
I start to
10%
get worried.
Again. That's also like in 10% again, because if you got like half of like 50% accept, that's already half the list. And so 20% of that list is like 10% of, the 100%.
Yeah. It's within the ballpark of what a good campaign looks like, either on cold email and LinkedIn. And yeah, I think, so I just start to get a little nervous if we ever dip below 20% response rate. Something's off with either likely the list or, it's just the wrong angle. So, give it a couple days and make sure you're north of 20% before you kind of tick off the box that you're doing a good job with LinkedIn. Now, and there's way more to cover. Like, for example, how they intertwine once these people start to get more complex if-thens, based on email status and recent activity on the number of, we've even looked at how does the number of connections indicate whether or not they're going to accept our invite. A lot of cool.
Is it a spoiler alert for another cast?
It is, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, hopefully today you just cut the list. Valid, not on LinkedIn. Boom, they get cold email. Active on LinkedIn, and they're in your second degree. Start them on an invite. If they don't accept, they get cold email. And then vice versa. If somebody starts cold email, but they are kind of active on LinkedIn, then finally kick them in. Just bear in mind, they probably have seen if your deliverability is healthy and you're using QuickMail, so probably is, they probably have seen your message. If you go to the other channel, this works both ways. Don't say the same thing. Don't say the same thing. Maybe take a way different tack, because I want you to assume that they saw it and chose not to reply. I think that's the safest bet. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. We'll end it there, and lots more to follow. But hopefully it was helpful. And if it was, and you want to get real good at the cold email side of things, please go to course.quickmail.io. It's the follow-up conversation where you're like, all right, the podcast is great, but I don't have a month and a half to go through 330 episodes, guys. If you go to the course in roughly, let's say 8 modules, you sit down,
8 weeks,
you watch you watch the footage, you do the exercises we tell you to do based on your campaign. You're going to be agency level sender without paying, a good agency several thousands of dollars each month, and maybe a bit more.
Looking to do it internally, or even like get up to speed yourself, so agency doesn't BS you around. That's a good one.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And by all means, what a lot of people do is they'll buy it for a team member. The team member will execute cold email for their company and either scale up internally, or at the very least, you validate that the channel works for you. So that's at course.quickmail.io. It comes with a 30-day money back guarantee. So why not course.quickmail.io?
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Talk to you next
time. Thank you, Jeremy. Awesome cast.